right, good morning. It's 28 minutes after 11 o'clock. It's probably and obviously a different time zone wherever you are. It's probably afternoon. It's probably the night. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good night. If you're in Guyana, of course, it's 28 minutes after midday. That's 28 minutes after 12. If you're Eastern Standard Time in the US, um, it's not even midday as yet, so good morning. All right, this is just a quick immigration update. I know a lot of folks have lots of concerns, lots of issues, lots of questions, and anxiety, as has been the case since the new administration, the new Trump administration, has taken control of the government, um, control of the White House, control of U.S. policies, lots of changes, lots of different things, strange things, and things that are not so strange, and things that you're familiar with, and things that you're not so familiar with. Some of you may not be familiar with the laws, immigration laws. And so the purpose of this program is just to give my opinion on the policies. It is not offering any advice for any individual, particular individual. It's just to talk about what the policies are and how it can possibly impact you negatively or positively. And so I'm just here to talk about that and not to personally give advice to anybody because that's not my job. And so let's start off with um, the main question, the main concern for a lot of you, those of you who have pending applications, immigrant visa applications in the system, um, and you are outside of the countries that have been um, singled out for um, review, that is, or those 75 countries that have been suspended. The suspension is obviously not a permanent suspension, it's temporarily. However, since it's temporary, what is being done is the US immigration agencies, they want to ensure that every applicant has reached or has met the requirements. And uppermost on the minds and concerns of USCIS or the State Department is to ensure that every applicant coming to the United States of America, they are clean in terms of no connection to terrorism, no connection to terrorist groups, and all sorts of things. So it's a vetting process. And what the State Department is basically saying is that, look, they need some time, as they have identified those countries, the 75 countries, to say that they need some time to review the applications and to put on hold any other applications. And mainly, these applications, mind you, are not all applications. They are immigrant visa applications. Some of you may know this by now. An immigrant visa application is different from a non-immigrant visa application. So those countries that have been mentioned, part of the 75 countries that suspended: Barbados, Jamaica, Grenada, Antigua, Dominica, and so on. Those countries, citizens of those countries can still apply for a visitor's visa. They can still apply for student visas. They can apply for any non-immigrant visa. Nothing is stopping them from doing that. And so this suspension, this new policy, does not have any bearing on those who would like to go in right now for a visitor's visa in those countries. Of course, it's going to be, um, the background checks and all these things and the required documents, you're going to have to really prove that you are worthy of being given that non-immigrant visa. But as of now, beginning January 21st, all immigrant visa applications in those countries will be put on pause until the countries, for example, Barbados, get its act together. Whatever that means, they will have to figure that out. Antigua, Barbuda will have to get its act together. And it has a lot to do, as in the case of Antigua, where people are just granted citizenship just like that without any proper vetting process. And I think the State Department, the US State Department, they have serious concerns with those sort of things. Now, it doesn't mean that these things don't happen in Guyana, especially, when they happen and under which government, right? So we want to stick to the immigration update and not get into the politics. You'll hear more about the politics tonight with those countries on my other program, which is Straight Up. So those who are currently in the United States of America, whether you're from Antigua, whether you're from Jamaica, whether you're from Barbados, Grenada, if you have pending immigrant visa applications in the system, whether it's an I-130, whether it's a 485, which is an adjustment of status application, and whatever you have, whether it's a VAWA, whatever immigrant visa application or applications you have in the system, and you are currently in the United States of America seeking adjustment of status, the 75, whether you're you're from those 75 countries, any one of those 75 countries, seeking adjustment of status should not have an effect. It does not affect your case. It is primarily, if you read what it's saying through the U.S. State Department, embassies, U.S. embassies in those countries are asked to suspend visa processing, whether it's Barbados, Jamaica, or wherever, just to suspend it. So it has absolutely no impact, based on my understanding of what is being said. Absolutely no impact if you have, you are in the U.S. and you have filed for your adjustment of status. I know usually it's panic mode. I know that a lot of people are panicking, those who are seeking to correct their status, especially those who are in the U.S., and even those who are outside of the U.S. who may be wondering, when is this suspension going to be lifted? Now, I don't know, but I would suspect that once those countries, Barbados and Maya Matley is always running around and dealing in other countries' business and not taking care of their own business, should start focusing on their country's business and things that would impact their citizens. And hopefully those countries that have been placed on the suspension list, Barbados, Antigua, Grenada, and so forth, that they will start fixing whatever the problem is so that individuals can resume with their immigrant visa applications in those countries. Let me see what else. Again, the 75 countries that are suspended. If you are in the US, it doesn't affect you. At least there's no notification that it's affecting you, or it is going to affect you. However, ensure that once you are going to have an application in the system, it doesn't hurt to give more evidence. Less evidence, especially in these times, less evidence would more likely cause your case to be held up. They may send for what is called a RFE, which is a request for evidence, and so forth and so on. So if you are going to be sending in an application for an adjustment of status, ensure that your evidence is pretty strong, or your I-130. Do not just send in a bare I-130 without any evidence. The stronger the evidence, the better for you. And so once you have strong evidence to prove that your marriage is a bona fide marriage, then you're good to go. Send in strong evidence. Find it, whether it's a utility bill, whether it's a joint bank account, photographs, even if you have a child together. I think sometimes having a child together makes a big difference in these marriage-based applications, marriage-based petitions. Now, I'm not saying to people go out there and get kids, just, but the immigration officers, they review these applications thoroughly. And if they see any red flag, then they will put that in the red flag bin to be reviewed. And that is why it's important that you submit proper evidence. Don't be afraid. If you have to adjust your status, if you have to do what you have to do, do not be afraid. Do not be misguided. Everybody's case is different. Tom Jones' case might be different from Babita's case. Babita's case might be different from Michelle's case, and so forth. And so everybody's case is unique, and it falls maybe in a different on a different officer's desk, and offices operate differently from each other. And so stick to your case and focus on your case, focus on your evidence. Don't focus much on TikTok. You might be misguided. It might give you more headache and all sorts of things. At least that's what I say to my clients. Focus on your case. Focus on your case, and then you'll understand exactly what is happening. Your case might take 3 months. Somebody else's case may take 6 months. Someone else's case may take 1 month, because I've had cases that have been approved within a month, marriage-based petition. Some 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and so forth. And so I say this, especially to my clients, with all due respect. Don't say somebody case, Guyanese already, somebody case that no. Stick to your case, stick with your evidence. And the less you discuss your case, at least this is my opinion, the less you discuss your case with people, the better for you. I have my reason for saying, the less you discuss your case with people, the better for you. Sometimes it's good to stay quiet. And then once you get through, then you're able to say, hey, I got through. That's all on that particular area. So with regards to the immigrant petition, when you're outside of Guyana and they approve your case and you go to the second step, which is to pay your immigrant visa fee, pay your affidavit of support fee, and a portal is opened up, then it goes to that next level. And once it is taken to that next level, all relevant documents will have to be uploaded. And then once everything is approved, mind you, then they will issue an appointment, an interview date. That is when you know you're cooking with gas. But that's not the end of the situation. You still have to get evidence. You have to get the original documents. And oftentimes, some folks have submitted their Guyana birth certificate, and the embassy would say that it's not. You got to give us something better. So I don't know what's going on at the Guyana birth certificate place. At least I've heard of stories. All of my clients have not experienced that, but I'm talking about stories that I've heard. And the embassy would reject documents that come across not authentic. Yet those very birth certificates are issued by the Guyana Post Office Corporation. I believe that's where they issue the birth certificates, right? And so, folks, when you're going in for your interviews, you may want to ensure that you get a good copy of your birth certificate and all relevant documents. when another quick tip, when you go in for your interview, whether it's a non-immigrant visa interview or an immigrant visa interview, a non-immigrant, as I explained earlier, is your visitor's visa application. Do not overtalk. Any interview, do not overtalk. Answer the question. And sometimes it's right, Joylyn, it's how you dress. Don't throw too much coconut oil, too much heavy cologne or perfume, and it's like too high. Just be calm, be yourself, answer the questions, answer the questions, and be honest. Stick to the question asked. If they ask if you eat roti and curry, yes, I had roti and curry. But don't tell them that you didn't get cash grant last month, so you didn't get enough money for buy food. And this, they don't want to hear all of that. And sometimes I get a report back, officer was mean to them. No, the officers got their jobs to do. Your job is to convince them. That's all. Convince them. I've had a client who called me on a marriage-based petition over here who went in and they called and they said, the officer was mean and the officer was this and the officer, mean officer. And oh my gosh. In less than 24 hours, that same mean officer approved their visa, approved their green card. And I said, sometimes it's not good to judge a book by its cover. Remember, the officers are there to do their jobs. You're there to answer your question and be straight up. And be straight up. Be straight up. And don't give extra information if they may ask. If they need further question, they will ask. All right. Any other thing you guys want to talk? This is just immigration update. Just about the 75 countries that have been suspended with visa processing. It's for me, I do believe that within a month or within 2 months' time, some of those countries will be off the list as long as they comply. That is all. Comply with security measures. That's all the US is saying. That's all the State Department is saying. Comply. Do not put your citizens at risk. Comply. Barbados, Maya Mottley, focus on Barbados. The Prime Minister of Antigua Barbuda, focus on your citizens. Comply. And there will be changes. Now, some have asked, Guyana is not on the list. But I have nothing further to say. I have absolutely nothing further to say. The other thing that I want to touch on while we are at it, if we can just stay focused, please, Dexter France. Appreciate it. And good to see you on the program. Next time I get accents, a big man. He's a big man, and I tell him to stay focused. So now the other thing, and I've been getting a lot of these questions, folks who are PR. Let me see if any one of you know when I say folks who are PR. Let me test your knowledge there. Beatrice, good morning to you. PR, folks who are PR. And you are here for over 5 years. Nothing should stop you from filing for your citizenship. If you got your green card, and PR, of course, some of you should know, it's permanent resident. If you got your green card through marriage, say, for example, Dexter France is married to Pinky Fatima. And thank you, Mary Hamilton Nestor. Wow, Mary Ann Hamilton is now Nestor. Good morning, Mary. So yes, PR is permanent resident. So let us say Dexter France got lucky and Pinky Fatima Aaron marries him. Pinky Fatima is a US citizen. I'm just using this as an example, mind you, so you guys don't get angry. Just an example. And Pinky marries to Dexter. Pinky is a US citizen, of course. Dexter can file for his adjustment of status right away, right off the bat. Dexter doesn't have to wait. But of course, you have to file your I-130 first. Now, when Dexter becomes, he get his permanent residency card. Um, After 2 years, 9 months, Dexter can file for U.S. citizenship. Even while Dexter's, if he's married to Pinky under 2 years, then Dexter will receive a conditional green card. But a lot of times, folks don't know that you can still apply for your citizenship even while you are, even while, sorry, you have a conditional green card, but you have to pass 2 years, 9 months. Even if you get that extension on your green card, your conditional green card, you can still apply for your citizenship. You can still send in that citizenship application, but you will still have to prove that you're married to the same person. In this case, Pinky would have to prove that she's still married to Dexter, and Dexter, is the one that is applying. They need to see that. Once the citizenship application goes into USCIS, USCIS will review that application, but they will also see, the officer will also see that you have a conditional green card. And they will say, okay, they apply to remove the conditions. And mind you, if you have a conditional green card, it is for 2 years. Before that 2 years is up, either 60 days or 90 days, you will have to send in another application, which is the I-751, to remove the conditions of the green card. Remove the conditions of the green card. If you don't do that, and the 2 years pass, and you don't apply to remove the conditions of the green card, it may be denied. And therefore, you wouldn't be issued with a permanent green card because you didn't apply on time. That is why it's important to apply. It's important to keep an eye on your case. It's important to pay attention and stay on top of the situation. Otherwise, as you would say in Guyana, cat eat your dinner. Stay focused, guys. Get your applications in on time. All applications need to go in on time. I was just following a case, a removal case, a judge that was dealing with removal cases. But I'll get to that, the reason why I'm mentioning it. But submitting applications on time to beat the deadline is important. There was this lawyer back and forth. By the way, let me just remind you guys, most of you know that I'm not a practicing attorney. Just make that clear, at least not as yet. But I do a heck of a lot of work in the very area, because as you know, I do have an advanced immigration law certificate. So I've studied, and I know, for the most part, I know what I'm talking about. So I just thought I'd make that clear, because sometimes folks say, hey, Mark is a lawyer. Not as yet. Not as yet. Sometimes I just wish I. Good. So I was in that courtroom watching, overseeing a case for a potential client. And there was this lawyer who has been practicing for, as he said in the court, he argued with the judge that he's practicing for over 50 years and he has never seen this nonsense. His client is from Jamaica. And so the judge said that I gave you an opportunity to submit, to submit a petition. The guy is married to a U.S. citizen. He is currently in removal. The judge said, I gave you a deadline to submit the I-130, but you didn't. You submitted the I-130 late. And therefore, I'm going to reject the application and order that the subject be deported. The lawyer got upset. I've never seen this. I'm asking you, the judge. He's telling the judge to use your discretion and allow the I-130. The judge said, no, I gave you time. You had 1 year to submit that I-130. I gave you time. Now, I'm saying this to say two things. The lawyer who has been practicing for over 50 years should have known better as to how important a deadline is. Now, if you miss a deadline, it doesn't mean that it is the end of the world. And you submit an application after missing a deadline, you can submit it with an explanation. And they are judges, they are officers who will review, and based on your reasoning, based on your explanation, that officer or that judge can use his or her discretion. That day in court, the judge didn't want to. I suspect it's because of the lawyer's approach. Having said that now, I just mentioned that even lawyers miss their deadlines. Even lawyers make mistakes, and sometimes lots of mistakes. Now, this is not here to knock anybody. Everybody is human beings do make mistakes. And I know some officers make mistakes as well, human beings. So back to the 751, which is the removal of the condition on your 2-year green card. You have to send in that application before the deadline. They say 90 days before the deadline, 60 days before the deadline. But beat that deadline. Even if it's 1 day before the deadline, beat that deadline. Beat that deadline. And you have to get more evidence if you want to remove the conditions of your green card. You cannot send in a blank or just the removal, the conditions to remove your, the application to remove the conditions from your green card without more information. Now, when they look at the application, the 751, that's right, Hazel Johnson, all are humans, all of us. Judges make mistakes sometimes. Officers make mistakes sometimes. Lawyers make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes immigration consultants sometimes make mistakes. It's a human thing. But what I say, especially when I'm handling cases, avoid mistakes. Oftentimes, in my opinion, mistakes come around when folks want to rush to do a job, rush, and there's no patience. If you notice, sometimes I say to have patience. That's what I say to all of my clients. Have patience. While I observe, I look at the deadline and have patience because it's got to be done properly. Everything has to be done properly. That's just how I do my thing, right? So have patience, guys. So back to the removal of conditions. Once your removal of conditions application is in the system, they receive it on time, then they will review and you will have an automatic extension, whether it's 24 months or 48 months. Most cases, it's an automatic 48 months extension while they review the application. Now let's get back to the 2-year, 9 months. Once your green card, now you reach your conditional green card, you reach 2 years, 9 months, and you have that extension from your 751, which is the removal of the conditions. We go back to the point now where you can now file for your citizenship. However, before you get your citizenship, they will have to remove the conditions from your green card and issue you with a 10-year green card. This is how it can be done. And sometimes, and this is what I say to my clients, and I'll give you guys this tip, whether you're my clients or not, or potential client, you can push for the removal of the conditions to be heard if it has been lingering for a while. And oftentimes, the application for your citizenship can do the trick. Because once they get the applications for the citizenship, the officer now will see, well, wait a minute, we can't grant you any citizenship interview until the conditions of your green card is dealt with, is removed, the conditions, we remove that conditions. So what they would do now, they would now bring forward, take your conditional application, your green card conditional removal application, out of the queue. They will review it, and then they will make a decision, one, either to schedule you now for an interview to remove the conditions from your green card, your 2-year conditions, or they are going to schedule one interview. It is called a concurrent interview, where they kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Simultaneously, they will interview you first. They have to touch that 751, that removal of conditions first. They have to deal with that first. Right there and then, the officer can say, okay, based on the evidence submitted, we are now approving your 10-year green card, and conditions have been removed. Approved. Congratulations. Then they can also approve your citizenship application. But before you are sworn in, you will then receive your 10-year green card. And after that, they will schedule you for what is called an oath of ceremony. And then you take in your green card and you say, thank you, you're sworn in, and you become a citizen of the United States of America. Some of you who have been waiting for quite some time, I know, a client of mine came after her, after the submission of her 751, conditions to remove her green card, application to remove the conditions from her green card. And so she's from the island, and she was concerned. So I'm like, okay, you dealt with a lawyer, okay, and you, the lawyer did your application and so forth. You went back for a consultation. But one of the things you weren't told is that you can apply for your citizenship. And so she was shocked. I said, yes, you can apply for your citizenship. So she applied for her citizenship, and USCIS granted her an interview for her citizenship, scheduled the interview for her citizenship, and then canceled the interview on the day. They said they haven't received the filers yet. And this is where now I go to say that sometimes these officers, some of them do make mistakes. And it was obviously a mistake because the client could not have been given a citizenship interview until the conditions of the green card is removed. And the officers admitted that, yes, there was an error. And I'm glad when folks admit that there was an error. And that's why I say sometimes people do make mistakes. We're all human beings. So if you are a conditional green card holder and you have applied to remove the conditions and you have reached the 2 years, 9 months into your conditional green card, you can file for your citizenship. You can do it. Don't let anybody tell you, no, wait, you can do it. Now, here's the other thing that I wish to say. Once you have a conditional green card, through marriage, of course, ensure that you stay married, because that's the reason for the condition. You've been issued a conditional green card. What the officers are saying, come back to us 2 years. They're saying go back to them 2 years after that green card and prove to them why they should remove the conditions from your green card. And in doing so, you have to have more evidence. Show them that, one, you have a joint bank account, y'all are filing taxes together, y'all are still living home, y'all are man and wife. If possible, y'all get picnic together during that 2 years. Those are helpful things for the conditions to be removed. Y'all went on trips together, somewhere, Arizona, somewhere in the Caribbean, somewhere. They need to see these sort of evidence. So when you are married to someone and you get a conditional green card, don't just lay back and, oh, they're going to remove it. No, they want to see more evidence. That is what they want to see. Prove your case. Prove to them that your marriage is a bona fide marriage. because you've presented more evidence to substantiate your claim. And that is what makes it even stronger. Now, if, for example, you are married to someone, you got your conditional green card, and you get left. Sorry that I have to smile when I say you get left, right? Or things happen. In life, things do happen. Nobody's perfect. Couples, they go through this stuff, they get left, who get walk out, all manner of things happen. There are arguments, police call in, and these sort of things. So let us say now it's time for Pinky and Dexter. I'm just using those two names there on the chat comment there. I hope they're still there. I'm just using them as an example. I'm not picking on my friend Pinky or Dexter. So let us say, for example, Pinky decides that she's gonna left Dexter. Dexter has a 2-year conditional green card. Now, mind you, I'm just using them as an example here, right? It's nothing, no case of theirs. I don't, they seem, yeah. And Dexter becomes frustrated now because Pinky left. And Dexter conditions on the green card has not been, those conditions have not been removed. Dexter starts sweat. Dexter start panic. How this thing gonna happen? How you gonna get this thing here? Pinky lefty. They're no longer together. Pinky can't go in for the interview with him. Dexter scratching his head. He all over the place, running wrong. Oh gosh, frustration building up. There's always a way out of those situations. Always a way out. It is not the end of the world. What is the end of the world to some extent is when you don't show up for the interview. If you don't show up for the removal of the conditioned interview, it is more a risk than if you show up and explain the circumstances. And oftentimes when you have to explain the circumstances, take in some evidence. So say, for example, Pinky and Dexter. Pinky beat up Dexter. Dexter calls the police. Dexter has police report. Twice police came by the house. Dexter has that police report. Dexter has been starved. She doesn't give him anything or nothing. And so Dexter is being abused. Dexter get a pot spoon on his head. Again, I'm just using this as an example. Pinky's a nice person. She doesn't do those sort of things. Dexter is a good church guy. He's supposed to be a pastor. I'm just using the two first names as an example, mind you. Not saying that Pinky is that bad person. I'm not saying that. So once Dexter is able to get those evidence up and submit it to USCIS or take it in with him to that, and they're able to review the application, interview Dexter, why Pinky is not there. I say, okay, you enter the marriage. All they need to see is that you enter the marriage in good faith. It's a genuine marriage. But it just so happened that things happen. And because things happen, Pinky is not there for that interview. You have a police report. You show them that you get a bungi and these sort of things. And you submit those documents. More likely, you will be approved. Be honest, be straight up. Tell them you get licks. Tell them you call the police. Tell them you get left. Tell them you enter this marriage in good faith. I've had several clients like that, and they are all successful without their spouse being there. They were all successful. But get the evidence. Just get the evidence. Don't ever put your hands up and give up and you're frightened to go in or whatever. Get the evidence, as long as you know that you married in good faith, that it's no fake marriage or not. You married in good faith. You have to stand up. You have to defend yourself. You have to go in and talk to those immigration officers. You have to explain your case to them. You got to show them the evidence. Here is the police report. Here is the evidence, and so forth and so on. This is what is happening. 99%, 0.9% chance you will get your application approved and your conditions removed. You see what has happened to people under those circumstances is when they don't show up for the interview, then that is the problem. Because you never give yourself a chance. You just put your hands up and you surrender. Do not do that. And sometimes you don't have to sell a whole cow pen to get all that money to do it, Sometimes you can just be properly guided and go in there, and it's done. It's done. So don't give up hope at all. Like I've had a client with a child that turned 22, a particular country in the islands. And they put their hands up, they gave up. I said, no, don't give up. You didn't give yourself a chance. Why give up? Oh, she already turned, or I think it's a son, he already turned 21. Oh, this and oh, sir. Don't give up. About 2 or 3 months after, thank you, Mr. Bentrop. The son got through. Thank you. I said, you see, you gave up. You didn't give yourself a chance. You didn't give that child a chance because you were willing to give up. Do not give up. Fight all the way to the end. But fight not wild, but smartly. You got to fight with sense. You got to fight smart. And stop taking advice from all sorts of different. Oh, this body. Calm down. Now, the other thing is, say, for example, you're late for your interview. If you're late for your interview, especially if you have a second interview and you're late, you don't show up, people are going to be frustrated. It depends on the officer, and they're not going to hesitate. They will say that your case has been abandoned. Now, I say this not to any particular person, but basically, if you have an interview, Guyanese or Caribbean people already, if you have an interview, please be there 30 minutes, be there 1 hour, stay outside, buy 2 donuts, eat it, or something. But do not be late for your interview, because most times, if you are late, they will consider that you have abandoned your petition, and they are going to pull the plug on you. And when they pull the plug on you, sometimes it's difficult to argue a case to reopen it, that you're late. Unless, of course, like I said, don't give up. Unless you have a story to tell, maybe an accident, maybe you had to rush to the hospital, there's an emergency, and you have medical document to prove, or a document that you got into an accident and you're able to get the police report. Now, I'm just giving all of this here as part of what approach can be taken with cases. That's why I say to people, do not put your hands up, do not give up. Give yourself a chance. One guy, a client, from the islands. I do have lots of clients from the islands as well, not just confined to Guyanese. And so the individual had a serious case where his lawyer didn't prep him properly. And so as a result of that, he got denied. They came to me and I said, wait a minute, get another application in the system almost immediately. Of course, errors were made, but in terms of the questioning, that is why man and wife, y'all got to know each other. Y'all got to know each other date of birth. They're going to ask y'all if y'all bathe. They're going to ask y'all what y'all eat in the morning. They're going to ask y'all what color is the bedroom, where your wife wore to bed last night. All these things they are going to ask. Again, it depends on the officer. But they do ask personal questions. Do not be surprised, because they want to know that y'all know each other. They want to know that Savitri knows Mark and Mark knows Savitri. So they are going to ask personal questions. They're going to ask when you first met, when you guys first met, how you met. They're going to ask me for Savitri's date of birth. I would say August 22nd, 1914. They want to know these things. Do I know whether Savitri has kids? How many kids Savitri has? What are their names and so forth? All those questions they ask. Again, it depends on the officer. Not everybody's case is the same. Like I noticed Hazel said, her story is not your story. That is true. Because I've had clients got in there 2 questions. One client went in there, one question they asked the husband and wife. The wife who was applying for her green card. They said, why do you want this green card? And of course, she said, because I want to be closer to my husband. That was the only question asked. Done. Next day, approved. Done with. Then there are some others who would ask, they will get 10 questions, 15 questions, 20 questions, and so forth and so on. Again, it depends on the officer. It depends on the evidence also. If you get more evidence to convince them that it's a bona fide marriage, then you sit back. But it doesn't mean that it's over. They will still ask questions. They ask questions such as, how come y'all ain't get no kids yet? You have to know how to answer those questions. And one of the things that I do is I take my clients then from beginning to end, all the way to the end of the finishing line. Sometimes we're a little bit exhausted, you know, a lot of questions, Mark. You know, I feel it for people because I want to put my foot in their shoes as well. And so if any of my clients watching, I don't get angry with you guys. I don't. Sometimes a little tired, a little exhausted, but I don't get angry. But sometimes the questions, oh, okay, they need answers. And that is what I'm here for. Now, if you have a green card, and this is a question that sometimes some folks will call and ask. If you have a conditional green card and you have an application in the system to remove the conditions, the question sometimes is, can you travel? Can the folks blacks, can they travel? It's up to you whether you want to travel or not. Especially in these times, again, I repeat, it is up to you. It is up to you to travel if you want to. Let good sense prevail, though. If you don't have to travel, why travel to prove to somebody in Linden or somebody under quarantine or somebody in Kingston, Jamaica, or somebody in Bridgeton, Barbados, or somebody in Georgetown, St. Vincent, or Port-au-Prince that you can travel? Don't travel to prove a point. You take a chance unless there's an emergency. In these times, I would say, be cautious. It doesn't mean that people should be afraid and live, you know, just be cautious. You should know your situation. Be cautious, because you don't want a situation where you're outside of the US, especially on a conditional green card. And while you're out of the country, a decision is made on your green card, and that decision is not favorable to you. When you're returning to the US, then they will see that the green card has not been extended, the conditions have not been removed, and that can pose some degree of problem. or problems. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case with everybody. I'm not saying that to as a scaremongering tactics at all. I'm not. All I'm saying is be careful, be cautious. That's all I'm saying. Be cautious. If you have to travel and it's really a need, a really, really important need to travel, then travel. If you're traveling to show up somebody in Agricola that you could come back and you could, just be careful, especially in these times. Again, I'm not saying don't travel. I'm not saying don't go and enjoy yourself somewhere. Just be cautious, but it's on you. And so when folks call and ask me, can I travel? That's not me. I'm not going to say travel. I'm not going to say don't travel. All I'm going to say, be cautious. Be careful. Be cautious. Be careful. Now, somebody asked a question here. Mark, I'm sorry that I did not know all of this information before. My son might have been up here already. That's Beatrice Selby. Hi, Beatrice. Yep, a lot of information, folks, and I assume that Beatrice is talking about when you aged out, when you're aged out. And the client of mine is it's a good case study, so to speak, because the client had not so long ago applied for their child with a green card, and then he became a citizen and upgraded the application process. So based on the math that these folks do, they're able to determine whether your child over the age of 21 or 22, they will do the calculation to go back to see when the visa became available. And they will do the math. And oftentimes, if it is around the ballpark area and so forth, then they will grant that visa. That immigrant visa, that green card application, they will approve it and stamp the passport for the child to travel. All I'm saying to you guys, don't give up. Don't let a couple dollars to pay for the immigrant visa fee, to pay for the affidavit of support fee, and to throw whatever little you got to throw to whoever is doing the application for you. Don't just put your hands up like that and just give up without trying. Because when you give up without trying, you never know where that application would have been. You never know. And then when you give up, then that child now who is over the age of 21 will have to wait a long time now. A long time now, unless he or she is married. Unless. So be careful. Now, let me go back to the client from the island whose application was denied, marriage application, because he said X, his wife said X, they said X, they said X, yeah. And because of, sometimes you can't blame your lawyer, and in this case, I believe that they attributed blame to the lawyer. But I'm not here to dispute that or whatever, but there are lots of errors and they weren't properly prepped. And oftentimes you have to be properly prepped. But properly prepped, even if a lawyer's in that interview with you, they wouldn't be allowed to answer personal questions. They cannot. A lawyer cannot answer a question, what is the color of your wife's nightgown that she wore the night before, or what you guys had for breakfast, or what's the color of your wife's, they can't, right? And so when the application was denied and they came to me, and I'm like, okay, here's what, all right, forget about what the lawyer said, forget about what was done. What is needed is another application in the system almost immediately. So that person was placed in removal. And I'm like, don't worry about that. That's my approach at times. I'm an optimist, right? I like to fix things. And I'm like, don't worry about that, because I like to look at the little light at the end of the tunnel. And when I see that little light, that's where, in Guyana, they usually say, walk right there. So I'll work right there with that little light. And that little light for that guy is to get your application back in the system, your I-130, your adjustment of status, and so forth and so on. So while the client was on removal, client got a lawyer in a particular state, Lawyer told him a heck of a lot of money. The lawyer also said, don't go in, don't go in. Don't go and see the judge. I will make an excuse for you. Don't go, right? Hide from the judge, right? And, sometimes it contradicts because based on my experience with these things, I'm like to the client, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Go in. You have a legitimate application in the system now. Go in. The client went in. The judge said, I gave you quite a few years, close to 5 years, the judge said. I am giving you 5 years to get your house in order. Go. He and his family walked out of the courtroom with smiles and tears of joy. I just had to share that story because sometimes people want to give up, especially with these cases and especially in these times. And I say to all of my clients who probably come with, or potential client with a heavy burden on their chest, so to speak, about their cases, do not give up. Do not give up. All it takes is being cautious, be patient, and things will work its way out for you. A potential client called and asked whether she and her family should go back to their country because they're frustrated. Now, I can't tell people whether to go or not to go. I ask them to look at the pros and cons. And if you think it is beneficial for you to leave and go, that is on you. If you think it's beneficial for you to stay, then that decision is yours as well. I'm not going to put myself in a position to tell people, advise people, go here, go there, go back, stay. That's not my job. Now, I may say what the rules are, what the law says, but it's up to you to make that final decision, because I don't want to be carrying that burden by telling people, go back or stay or go back. But sometimes they can read between the lines. Mr. Patterson, how are you doing? So now, the case with green cards. And if you have brushes with the law and you apply for your citizenship, they are going to scrutinize it. They are, but it doesn't mean because someone has a scrape with the law, an arrest or whatever it is, that you should be apprehensive in applying for your citizenship. I have clients with convictions, arrests, and so forth. I mean, I'm not talking about with murder and all these other different heinous crimes and so forth. And they've been successful. All of them have been successful. However, what I say is be cautious, because in these times, all applications are being thoroughly looked into. All applications. And you've just got to be cautious with your approach. If you have some sort of arrest records or whatever it is, and you have a green card and you travel outside of the jurisdiction, outside of the US, upon your return, it may pose some problems for you. So that is why you've got to be extra careful in these times with what you do, when you travel, where you travel to, and so forth. Be extra careful. Now, the other thing I want to touch on before I go, I didn't expect to be here for an hour, is VAWA applications. Now, VAWA applications are basically applications where you're married to a US citizen or a permanent resident and things didn't work out. It could be a man, a woman, it could be a child also. Things didn't work out, but you have evidence and you have the proof to show. You can't just file a bare VAWA application like that and send it in. It's not going to go anywhere. You can end up shooting yourself, so to speak, in the foot. And you don't want that. So if a VAWA application is going to be done, you've got to ensure that there is sufficient evidence to prove your case. Because if there isn't sufficient evidence, the case will eventually collapse. And that goes for asylum seekers as well. You've got to have evidence, real proof that X, Y, and Z, this is what is happening. And even if you're late with your asylum application, going to the asylum application, even if you're late with it, they would still, they could still possibly accept it with a good explanation. And this is why I'm saying to you guys, do not give up. Don't get the wrong information from people, because a lot of folks, some of whom call me, I know that they've been misguided, whether in Guyana or outside. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to sit here to say that I give the best opinion on what the law or policies are, but I try my best to ensure that I guide you guys in the right direction so that you wouldn't put yourselves in harm's way. Neither do I say do anything out of the ordinary. Follow the law. These are the policies. This is what you can do, and this is what you can't do. I'm going to lay everything there on the table for you. It's up to you to make that final decision. Now, whenever applications are being sent in, ensure that all areas are covered. If one little box is left out, if one key piece of information is left out, you stand a chance, a high chance, that your case will be, I repeat, that your case will be rejected. And in these times, your case, not only can it be rejected, the officer has the authority to deny that application and put the person in immediate removal. That is why you've got to be extra careful. Okay, that is why you've got to be extra careful. Extra careful. I just got a message from, let me see here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yep, I got you. Someone with a quick question there. Good afternoon to you. You know, and again, you know, you've got to be extra careful, guys, extra careful. And especially before I go with marriage-based petition, when the applications are done and you reach to the point of an interview, the minute you step out that door, the interview starts. The minute you step out the door, that immigration interview, that petition, adjustment petition, your green card interview starts, because you never know. If you're in the bus, it could be the officer sitting right there. If you're on the train, it could be the officer sitting right there. And so when you walk in for that interview, they want to know personal things about y'all too. Personal things they want. How much is your rent? Where do you live? How y'all sleep? One client of mine, they went in and they're in their 60s, like Brennan Thompson and them. They're in their 60s, right? And they asked the client, they asked them when was the first time they made love. And when the people came out from the interview, they were shocked. They called me, they said, Mark, could you believe the officer asked when was the first time they made love? Now, I'm not saying this to be humorous or anything. It is the truth. It is the truth. You don't know what question or questions they are going to ask. That is why I say to all of my clients, be prepared, be prepared. Know your wife's date of birth, know your husband's date of birth, know the picnic date of birth, all these sort of things. You've got to know that. If you don't know it, you don't expect anybody else to know it. You don't expect your lawyer to know it. You just can't expect it. You just cannot, if you know what I mean. Know each other. Otherwise, can't eat your dinner. Now, also, even if in the interview, you miss one or two questions and so forth, the officer's discretion would say, all right. But if simple things and body language, they look at body language, you know. So don't go into the interview, you mouth lang, she mouth lang. Officers look for body language too, facial expressions. Now, I'm not saying overdoing the do and squeeze up next to she in the interview or squeeze up next to him and thing, but they look at facial expression. And even when you guys are out there in the waiting area, waiting to go in for that interview, you're being observed as well. You are being observed as well. Right, Leroy Bourne? You are being observed. So don't turn so you up on your phone texting. He just saw he and you mouth lang and he mouth lang and y'all twist up and oh my wife. No, I'm not saying be mushy and kiss up and these things, but you know how to handle yourself. And I guess by now you guys get the message that people are looking for that sort of evidence. And so that's where we are. Any question before I go? I'm reading some of your comments. Yeah, you've got to know each other. If you file for adjustment of status, and let's say Brennan Thompson is the stepfather of Mary Figueroa, and Mary Figueroa is under 17. Mary Figueroa was under 17 or under 18 when they got married. Brennan Thompson can file for his stepchildren. He can file for their stepchildren, but they have to be married. He has to be married to their mother before their 18th birthday. Brennan Thompson can file for his stepchildren also, adjustment of status. However, once you file for your spouse and your stepchildren, your spouse's application would have to be approved first before the children. It's not going to happen unless the mother or the father is approved first, and then they come after. I had a client whose child, they scheduled an interview for the child, and I was like, how the heck they schedule an interview for the child and not the father? So it so happened when they went there, the officer admitted that it was a mistake. So again, officers do make mistakes, but don't panic. They all got their green card. They're happy now. Father got his green card, and son got his green card about a month, 2 months after. So they're happy. But one other thing I want to talk about before I go, though, is the other thing that I want to talk about, though, is if you have a child in the U.S. and that child is over the age of 21 and is a U.S. citizen, that child could file for his or her parent, whether in Guyana or outside of Guyana. If they are in the U.S., they can file for that parent. As long as the parent came through the right route, even if that parent overstayed his or her time, that U.S. citizen child over the age of 21 can file for his or her parent, can file for his or her parent. And the evidence in this case, what they look for, the evidence that they look for is to ensure that there's UPICNE. And how can you prove that? Birth certificate and so forth, to show that, yes, you are the father or the mother of that child. And not much evidence that you have to send in for that process. And as a result of that, the wait time is sometimes less than, sometimes less than normal. And all of those cases that I have had have been approved, and they get their green card and they're happy about that. So, and all of those cases, the child didn't go in. Some of those kids are in the Army, some are some other state, and they just didn't go in. One case, a child is in the Army, over 21. Soon as his parent walked in for the interview, we see that your son is a serving member of the U.S. military. We appreciate his service. No question asked, none whatsoever. Thank you, your case is approved. Good luck. That's all. Again, I'm going to leave you by saying, do not give up. Keep hope alive. Do not panic. Just do not panic at all. If there's no more question or questions, I'm out of here. I hope that the information has been beneficial. I basically came on here because quite a few persons have called because they became worried about the 75 nations that have been suspended for visa processing. And again, just to reiterate, the visa processing is just for immigrant visa for those countries, not non-immigrant visa. But they will scrutinize non-immigrant visa applications. So just be careful. They're looking for honesty, they're looking for good evidence, and they're looking for bona fide application, nothing fraudulent. Now, Fidel Albert is asking about, they look for DNA too. They don't necessarily look for DNA. And that's a good question though, Fidel, don't get me wrong. But in the case of a mother doesn't have to prove rare circumstances. I've had one case with someone out from Africa where a mother had to prove DNA. And that's because situations in some of those countries are different as it pertains to birth certificates and all these things. But mostly fathers would have to prove DNA. Now, if the father doesn't have his name on the birth certificate, then of course, Lester Tom or Leroy Bourne or somebody would have to prove that, or Andre would have to prove that they are, or even me, right? Sorry, would have to prove that you are the father of the child. If your name is not on the birth certificates, thankfully, we should put our names on the birth certificates, right? But sometimes things happen and a father might not be able to put his, or you run away or something. Things do happen. And so if the dad's name is not on the birth certificate, and this goes back to Fidel comment about DNA, then the officer now would request DNA testing. Now, let me make this clear, that there are some cases, even when the father's name is on the birth certificate, the officer can still request a DNA be presented. It is up to the officer to make that final decision on whether a DNA is necessary or not. But for now, Fidel, DNA for the mother as well. Oh, yeah, DNA for the mother as well. I've had a client, the mother had to show her DNA for the mother as well. Depends on the circumstances. Now, some people have video evidence whenever it is. Video evidence is not accepted in most cases, unless it's a court hearing or whatever. And there are ways to prove it, but most cases, when you're going for your interview, do not take out your phone to show a video thing or this here. Take all of your evidence in a folder, your photographs, your bank account, your tax information, your lease, and these sort of things. You need these things. And there are some cases when you don't have it, you'll find some other thing to substitute it. But they're looking for applications that are authentic, applications that are valid, applications that are legal. Guys, be careful. Be extra careful. Be safe. Be cautious. And also be careful with getting advice from all sorts of different people. I say to folks, this is what the law says. These are the policies. Those are the only things you should listen to. The laws, the policies. Now what somebody say, or somebody, this happened to this body or that happened to that body. Your case is a different case. Your officer is a different officer. And what your officer did with your case might be different what they do with somebody else's case. It's a case by case situation. Be honest, dress appropriately, say thank you, smile, and it goes a long way. Do not rush your applications. As we say in Guyana, do not rush the brush. Be calm, be careful, and be smart. And the end results will be exactly what you're looking for, an approval. God bless you. Continue to keep hope alive. Don't ever give up on your situation. People have gone through worse and they were able to overcome. You can overcome too by doing what is right. God bless you.